All right, friends, thank you so much for logging on to watch this broadcast today. I have my main man in the house, my friend of a very, very, very long time, and he is Africa's number one clarity coach. I have with me in the house today, David Babale. David, welcome to the show. So
It's
great to
good to
have
be
you.
here. It's good to be here. Very
Wow.
good to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah,
You're doing
I'm
phenomenal
so
job.
excited.
The stuff you do.
I'm so excited to have you around, David. Thank you so much for
glad.
honoring my invite at a very short notice.
Come on,
Thank you
anything.
so much.
My pleasure.
All right. One of the things we want to look at today, basically, is of course, you're going to share with us your clarity journey. How did you come about, this idea or this concept of filling the world with passionately purposeful people? That's a concept that I believe that everyone needs to hear. What was the story like? Will be sharing that. And also, I promised our audience that in the last broadcast, I'll be talking about the confusion cycle, how people can move from confusion to control, to creating things. And we will also be talking about that in this episode. And of course, we'll be looking at reasons why people are confused and your own experience working with people, helping them to find clarity. So that's basically what this whole discussion is going to be about. And I believe that our audience will have a very, very good value for their time. Okay, so let's begin. So, David, let's start with you. How has the journey been for you moving from whatever you were doing before to becoming a recognized voice when it comes to clarity? How has it been for you?
One thing I like to always say to people when I'm asked this question is, I've always been this. This is it's always been who I am. All right. And always provided, and that will be very instructive to the things we have to say. I've always provided some form of clarity to people, to places, and to things from the earliest I have known. All right. For me, my purpose journey or my clarity or my journey towards this all started from my earliest memory. My earliest memory of myself as a human being is built. I wanted to be unique. All right. I always wanted to stand out. I remember that in those days, if they say everybody should sit down, all the children should sit down, or everybody is sitting in the parlor, I want to stand on the table, and when they say everybody in kind of memories, all right, there were things for me. I always loved, I never liked the crowd. I never liked to be among and just be among what everybody is doing. I wanted to always stand out. So growing up and, interacting with truth and mentors and teachers, and coaches, also my personal coaches, one of the things I began to find out was that there was a reason behind that drive for me. There was a reason. There was a meaning behind it. It wasn't just me trying to be stubborn or recalcitrant or something. It was me who was trying to give something that was within me an expression. All right. So for me, that was how my journey started. My journey was not something that I met on the way. It's been a lifelong journey. All that just happened to me is that right now I have a lot more light with regard to, the definitions of who I am, being able to put it into a very structured form so that, I am able to move ahead with some level of certainty.
Oh, awesome. So it's been a lifelong journey, and I think I appreciate that fact. I know a lot of people are wondering, what do I want to do with my life? And for some people, it's as if the thing should just happen maybe they have a dream or something just happens and boom, they just know immediately that this is what I want to do. But from learning about other people's success stories, I realized that for many people, it has always been a journey. You keep moving from one step after another. You take a step here and a little here. Sometimes you fail, you learn from the failure, and then you move ahead. But for some people, they feel is that, oh, this is the end of the world. I don't think I want to go with this anymore, and that's just the end of it for them. And I know that there was a time in 2009 that myself, yourself, and a particular friend of ours, we had this discussion. If you can remember that day somewhere in Lagos, and we said that we're going to do something that eventually someday our names will be, on the news, on the daily
Headlines.
Yes, on the headlines. How has that meeting affected your perspective or your perception of yourself and the way you do things? Because sometimes I make reference to that meeting. I say, whenever I wake up and I'm like, the journey is still far. Keep grinding, keep pushing. So, how did that meeting, that experience, change your perspective about the things that you do?
There's something you didn't say about that experience. Maybe that would put it in perspective. And I think it would speak a whole lot. It would speak a whole lot. It was actually a transition time, for every one of us that was in that meeting. All right, we were at very critical times, vis-a-vis relationships, vis-a-vis work, vis-a-vis, a whole lot of things that, life was about for us. So it wasn't like we were sitting and then we just had this, we were in a good place or a comfortable place per se. All right. But you see, I would use that to be able to say, but what that did or what that meeting was one of those things I have come to refer to as it was a future crafting moment for us. All right. Because like it's been popularly said by speakers that you would not feature in a future you have not pictured. So what that meeting was for us and is still for me is creating a picture, of the future we want to feature in. And since we're speaking about confusion, it's important that you understand that, if you are not able to picture a future, you will not be able to feature in it. As redeeming as that sounds, is the truth. All right, because you see, we as human beings, we think in pictures, and when somebody says he or she is confused, is the fact that we came upon a moment in time that we did not envisage or we did not picture first. All right, so we were in dire straits at the time we had that meeting. But because we had created a picture, the next few years and more to come have been such that, no matter what happens, I always remind myself that we're going to make the headlines. We are making the headlines, even though at the time we were making headlines where we were, but we knew that we needed to project into the future to say, we need to be able to make more headlines, right? So, it's been very, very helpful for me, basically.
One thing with managing moments of transition, and that's a very vital point you just made there, and that's the place of envisioning. Sometimes people just feel that this thing happens by luck, like you just find yourself someday and then you're just there. But I was listening to one of my favorite speakers as I was driving to work this morning, and one of the things he said that if you meet anyone who helps people to experience transformation in their lives, he said such persons would always point them to the vital place vision as in achieving anything in life. That there's nobody who to say that I help people to experience major shifts in their lives and will not point them in the direction of vision. Because it's that where it all starts from. It's that ability, that capacity to picture what one wants to become. It is in envisioning that we now begin to ask ourselves, so how do I move from where I am now to where I want to be? And that's been very, very amazing. Sorry, I want to talk about something. I remember in my last video I shared with the audience that in my next episode I want to talk about what I call the confusion cycle. And I think that this will help somebody. Maybe I can just take like 5 minutes to talk about that. Okay, so my audience, I hope that will be fine. Let's just break this a bit. I'll just talk about take about 2 or 3 minutes to talk about that. So let me share my screen with us. So let me do something right now. So I'm going to make a drawing on the board right now. So wherever you may be watching from. Okay, so I'm sharing a screen with you right now. Those are like 3 concentric. Okay, so let me try and do something to join them together so that it becomes it becomes like okay, let me select this and just delete this. Yep, delete. Yep. Okay, so let me do, where's my spotlight? Okay. So I have this. Okay, so more like a creation. Don't mind my drawing, guys. Okay, so now this is the idea. For many of us, so let me spotlight. Let me spot this. Can I change the color? Good. So let me spot this. For many people, we live in this realm of confusion, basically. And the whole idea is, what other people have done to me, what exactly do I want out of life, your beliefs, your emotions, a whole lot of things are affecting you right now. And that's where many people find themselves, where they are not even sure of what is happening to them. And most times they are reacting to other people's creation, what other people have said, what other people have done. For example, for us in Nigeria, at this moment, people are, sorry, David, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
Hello? Okay, good.
How about you?
Yeah. Okay. So for some people, they are crying right now. Oh, there is increase in fuel price, increase in power, and all of that. So people are confused. What do I do next? Okay, COVID-19 has hit the whole world, and many people are asking, what do I do next after COVID-19 and all of that? For us to move from a place where we are no longer confused to a place where we begin to exercise control, then we begin to ask ourselves, what are those things that I really want? What do I really want out of life? Like we mentioned earlier, vision, you begin to see things. And once you begin to see things like that, you move to the realm of control. Okay? And what that means is that you are no longer reacting to what people are thinking or saying. Rather, you are in charge of life itself. That's a realm where you move to, where you are no longer being reactive to where you are no longer reactive to what people, where you are no longer reactive to what people are thinking or saying, but rather you are in charge of life itself. So that's the point. And then as you begin to move to that point, you also need to move to a point where instead of now waiting for other people, you move to the realm of creation, where you are now putting out your own products, putting out your own services, putting out your own ideas, and you are a part of the narrative. Now, at your moment of confusion, you are reacting to other people's narrative, to other people's event, to other people's things. Somebody creates a program, say, no, no, that program shouldn't be heard on TV. That's a bad thing. We don't want that. You're just reacting. But the point is, what are you creating to be a part of the story, to be a part of the narrative? For you to really be in charge of life, then we must move to that point where we are creating our own narratives, you're creating your own products, you're creating your own services, we are creating things that is shaping the way people see life, the way people think, the way people envision. Once we move to that point, then I tell you, you are becoming the person in charge. So that's basically the summary of the confusion cycle. Okay, and I know that this is very crucial for anyone who wants to exercise control. Okay, so I will allow David to also share a few thoughts on this. Dave, I hope
Yes.
the stuff I just shared now makes some sense, right?
Very well. It does. It does very
Yeah.
well. All right. To a very large extent, it brings, like I said earlier on, it brings perspective to the whole discussion of where clarity comes from. All right.
Yeah.
So the point is, you've heard people, and I'm sure if you could just look at the word confusion and all of that, you will hear a lot of people say to you, confusion is a natural part of life. Confusion is a natural part of life. I'm sure some of the people in the audience must have also echoed that, thought too. But I'm saying to you, the truth is, that's not true.
Yeah.
I want to first and foremost say to you that confusion may have been something we have accepted as a part of life. It's just like you saying sickness is a part of life, or being sick is a part of life. All right. The truth is, sickness is not a part of life, but sickness happens in life. All right. So it's the same way that confusion
Yeah, exactly.
confusion happens in life. Confusion is not a must pass in life. And I must say that I innately believe, and through my study of human behavior and people and all of that, I innately believe that we were all born or created clear, just like we saw. So I like to just say, we all started from a place of clarity. So if, for instance, or we were created clear, just based on the diagram, right? We were created clear, as it were. You would find out that we knew exactly what we wanted to do or what we wanted. And you can look at it from a very basic lens. We knew what we wanted and we went for it. We became very uncomfortable when what we wanted was not given to us. Let's take, for instance, I say to people that the purest of our species are babies. All right? Children or babies are the purest form of our species. They are the purest form of our species. At that point in time, have you seen a child? If a child is hungry, he cries and ensures that he's fed. If a child is soiled, or maybe soiled his or her diaper, a child responds or reacts to it. If a child growing up wants a particular thing, he or she goes for it. You don't say, oh, it's too hot. If he's fascinated by something, he moves at it, even if it is fire. All right, whatever it is. All right, if a child wants something, he goes for it. That's what we really are. There's no atom of fear. There's no atom of saying impossibility. You just go after it. But you see, our confusion starts when we begin to integrate in society. With society, then you begin to hear people say, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you cannot do that. So we lose our clarity and we get to the point of confusion. Just like you saw from the diagram, we lose our clarity and then we begin to, and at the point of confusion, this is what happens to us. Maybe just take a bit of time to say, at the point of confusion, we become uncertain, as it were. We are uncertain about happenings, how things are intended to be, or what is required of us. So at the end of the day, we begin to look at, so for instance, you get into a group, you're looking at, so how am I supposed to behave? What am I supposed to do? Or what is required of me to do in this circumstance? Usually that's what happens. So before you know it, you've lost control. You were the person a few a few moments ago who could say, this is what I wanted and this is what I wanted, and you went after it without fear. But you grew up to a certain place because you wanted to be socially acceptable. Don't forget, we are gregarious animals. We want to always be socially acceptable. So we look up to the dominant figures and personalities or the dominant opinions held in our immediate society or community. And you know what Confucian uses? And I will say something to the audience listening to me. You know, I would say something to you right now that you see, Confucian does not work on its own. Confucian has two major allies, pain and shame. Those are the two things that Confucian. So the truth is, so that's why you find out that people feel like, oh, confusion is a normal part of life. No, it's not. It's what has happened to us, and we are beaten into the place of confusion by pain or shame. So for instance, you may not, for instance, what we call peer pressure is just somebody, a child who comes around the place, and the popular culture around that group is to act in a particular way. And then the child who's been raised with better morals says to himself that, you know, oh, me, I will not join you guys. I will not do this. All of a sudden, what happens to him is they begin to insult him or call him names or her names. And then before you know it, because of the pain of not wanting to be seen as an outcast, or the shame, the feeling of not wanting, of feeling worthy of love, acceptance, or belonging comes, then all of a sudden you would rather stay in the point of confusion. And we must say that the point of confusion is simply me or the individual responding to his external world or depending on externalities as a source of his own decision or a source of his own action. So it's important that you understand that confusion is not necessary, is a state that we can come in and out. So if I allow situations and circumstances and people, places and things external to me to determine my reaction, that's when I would be confused. But like you said, so what clarity now comes back. So what happens? Two things I have noticed, bro, from my work with people. Two things I have, and then my study of human behavior and the psychology of man generally. One, and that's the popular one, is the most popular, crisis. There's nothing that draws a man to the place of clarity, but you see that draws a man to the place of clarity like a crisis. That's why you find out that people had near-death experiences, or some people had some very fundamental failures, and then all of a sudden it seemed like that was the turning point of their life. What happened to them was that crisis was what jolted them back to their original state. Say to me that also proves the fact that we innately know what makes us that makes us clear or creative, like we see here. So, or the second way,
I'm trying to see if I can lend a voice to that. Maybe you should hold the thought there. About the fact that crisis sometimes pushes us to discovering ourselves. There's this song we used to sing, a song of praise when I was in secondary school. He that is down needs fear no fall. He that is low no pride. When we get to like the base in life, and it's like, what am I afraid of? Most times, like you said earlier, people are ashamed of what may happen. They're afraid of what other people will say and all of that. But when we get to the lowest point in life, and it's like the entire shit is gone. So at that point, you just tell yourself that, what else do I have to lose? So now I should do what I actually want to do with my life. At least people have known that I failed.
True.
I want to move on. So I think I love that point where crisis pushes people down. And then they begin to think of what they actually want. That's awesome. So the second point.
So, but what wise people do, what wise people do, especially very early, what they do is they embrace a part of clarity. See, clarity can come to you is, they begin to introspect. All right. They create moments in their lives where they introspect. All right. So what I do in my whole life, in my life's work, is to get people. But you know what? I found out that that's very difficult. All right. Once you have options, you feel like there are still things you can explore. and I find out that most of the people that come for that embrace coaching and all of that are people who are mostly in their midlife, or some, who are on the other side of their life. When you talk to young people about these things, most of them just feel like, you know what, I still got strength of
like they still have their own life ahead of them.
That's the point. They still want to test and try out something. All right, just like you mentioned earlier on, for what we did, what that meeting we had in 2009 did, that's almost like 11 years ago. I'm almost saying it's obvious we were 11 years younger right now than we are then when we were, so we were maybe in our 20s, we were in our early mid-20s and all of that, right? So the point remains that at that time we were still having conversations to be able to shape the future. All right. So one of the things you need to do is also what's a clarity moment? Clarity is built around asking the right questions, finding the right answers, and knocking the right doors. All right. So I take that again. Yeah. So that's the clarity moment on the other side of crisis, is asking the right questions, finding the right answers, or seeking the right answers, and knocking the right doors. So it's important that you understand that if you must. But most of us don't have the opportunity, and we don't have the temerity and the doggedness to be able to sit ourselves down, ask ourselves the right questions, seek the right answers, or know the doors to be able to knock. So that's where people like coaches, teachers, in some instances, certain pastors, come up with and be able to say to you, you know what, can I walk with you through this process in a non-judgmental and non-intrusive way. All right. So with that kind of a process, all right, when you meet those kind of people, or you come into that kind of situation, what happens to you is that they give you back the control of your life. The truth is, if you meet a good coach, you meet a good pastor, you meet a good teacher, what he or she will do for you is not to be able to take control of your life, but will give you over the control of your life. All right. So I told one of my clients yesterday, I said, you know what? I'm not seeking to be anybody's role model. I'm not seeking to be anybody's mentor. I'm not seeking to be anybody's anything. All I just want to do is to be able to give people control of their life. If they find that and they say, oh, that's a mentor, that's a role model for me, that's fine. But for me, that's not my ambition. My ambition is to be able to give as many people control of their life, or like my vision statement says, to be able to help people to become passionately purposeful. All right. So that's what brings you to the point of control. All right. So clarity brings you to the point of control. And when we mean control doesn't necessarily mean that you have everything under wraps and locks. What control simply means is that you are inner directed. That's what I perceive we were bringing about. Control is the point whereby you have inner direction. And if you notice, if you're a person of faith here listening to us, you would know that the Holy Spirit, or the coming in or receiving the life of Christ, is not that you begin to have an external control. No, that's not the essence of God. God wants to be able to walk with you, to be able to empower you to take control of your life and your process. So God is not an external control, right? He's an internal control. He helps you, strengthens your internal control mechanism and system, so that with the moment you gain control of your life, then you would find out that you would begin to do the things you were originally created to do. All right. And that's the point where, that's the point that, that you mentioned, that people begin to become narrative shapers. All right. You become narrative shapers. And I agree very strong that all of us, all of us ought to be shapers of the narratives, not necessarily of our world per se. Because if you find out the people who set out to shape the narratives of the world, one of the things they never do is that they never set out to be able to change the narratives of the world. All right? What they set out to do basically was to be able to shape the narrative of things from within their sphere, of personally, sometimes within their own lives, and then people begin to find it as an inspiration. People begin to find inspiration, direction, guidance from it. They don't seek to control people. I think that in essence
Exactly.
is, how the circle of confusion, or maybe your circle of clarity, I think,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
it would help us to do that. I hope that helps
All right.
somebody make sense of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bringing in the bit of your own part of clarity, helping
Yeah,
people to move out of confusion to becoming creators. For me,
yeah,
that's one of my major drives in life. Like when I just see people always mumbling, complaining, complacent, you can do more than this. And most times when you look at it, you realize that their life is defined by reactions to what other people have said, what other people have done. Like you said, as a child, people tell you can't do this, you can't do that. Many people grow up with a lot of cannots.
yeah,
You cannot. So they are
yeah,
more
yeah,
aware of the things that they cannot do than the things that they
yeah,
can do. They are more aware of the things they cannot have than the things that they can have. They are more aware of the places they cannot go than the places they can go because they
very
ever
true.
don't,
Yeah,
can't, don't, can't.
yeah,
So people need to now rewrite their own script and begin to take control of their lives. And I think I did a series on that on my YouTube channel. I think I'll display the link for someone to be able to see that. So it's been awesome having you on Life Transitions
thank
today,
you.
the clarity coach. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, so
My pleasure.
before we go, do you mind sharing with us what has been your experience like personally working with people to find clarity in life, to define their own path, to become passionately purposeful, like you say? All right, what has been your experience like? And then I think we'll close on that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me once again. It's quite a pleasure to share these things. They cut right through the heart of my soul and my essence. All right. So, in few words, one of the things for me as a person, all right, I would say my experience with working with people it's been my greatest point of growth. You see, because everybody you meet, like I like to say, it's a unique journey. All right. So
Yep.
so there are no two people you sit with, or there are no two people you engage in coaching that have the same story. So there is no stereotype. So it calls upon a part of you that is that is a lot more deeper, a lot more introspective to be able to handle those things. And I can assure you that,
Yeah.
I was asking my assistant the other day. I said, why do people cry in those sessions? There is basically not a session I've had with anybody, and some people repeatedly every session they come in crying. So I had to ask the question, why do people cry? All right, then I'm reminded of the infant. When a child is born, I ask myself, why do people cry? Why do babies have to cry? In fact, it is something that is a requisite. When a child is born, he must cry, to be able to be guaranteed that he's not a stillbirth, he's not a stillborn. All right. So one of the things I also found out, and that's been the summary of my experience with people on this work, is that people always come to the point of crying. And then I'm saying, oh, I now understood. I said, it's not just because I bash them or insult them. No, I help them birth something in anew, something they have had an insight about, something they've had a relationship about that they had doubted or people had told them was invalid. So the experience for me is always a birthing process. So I'm always very excited, just like it's a new person born almost after every session. So for me, it's the only people who can understand the joy a newborn parent, all right, or midwives who are excited to help people deliver of their child. And that's been, in summary, my experience on working with this, helping people deliver the creativity, the life, the essence of their existence on this side of eternity. It's been amazing and fantastic journey.
Wow, awesome, awesome. You know, what you just said now, reminded me of this saying that there are two important days in a man's life: the day he was born and the day he discovers why. You know, so I think what you just described is somebody discovering, wow, so there is more to me than what I've been doing all those while. And then for some people, it's like, so I've been wasting away how many years now, and then they just realize that so there is so much more to me than this. Okay, so thanks once again for coming around the Babale on this. We'll be joining the curtain. I hope I'll have you another time on my show. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for watching the show. To follow the Babale is on Instagram, on other social media platforms at David Babale. I think he's the only one that uses that name anyway. So, yes. At David Babale, please follow him and see some amazing stuff that he has. And of course, he can also work with you to go through your journey to finding clarity, to finding purpose, to living passionately and purposefully. All right. So thank you, David. One last word for our audience.
Yes. The last word is, please don't, just like you were trying to mention, please don't wait for life to happen to you. Happen to life. Don't wait for life to happen to you.
Yeah.
Happen to life. All right.
Yeah, that's important. Don't wait for the crisis. Go into introspection and begin to think of what exactly do I want out of life. Step out of your comfort zone and begin to live the life that you have always dreamt of living. The truth is that the good things of life are always on the other side of your comfort zone. So step out and keep winning and keep grinding to meet in the next episode. Please remember to subscribe to this channel. Yes, let's touch the world together. All right. Thanks for stopping by. And please, if you have any questions, kindly drop your questions in the comments. We will reply to your questions. Okay, you have some personal issues you want us to talk about, please drop them in the comments and we will respond to you. Thank you so much for being a part of this show, and God bless you. All right, Dave, thank you so much. See you
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Bye-bye. Well, okay, just about just now.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I've stopped my own recording, so I'm sure you do when you want. You have.
Okay, I think I should just stop it so that it can start the